my partner, fellow producer and businesswoman Julie Boardman.
Hi, I'm Julie. So Ted had asked me to kind of tell you how I got to this point, but before I do that, just since we watched this video, the guy with the red glasses, Tom Schumacher from Disney, he actually gave me some invaluable advice that I think translates really well to being an entrepreneur and starting your own company. In the Broadway world, he told me I was trying to learn, and you know, it's obviously very important to build a track record of hopefully success on Broadway. And so in an effort to learn, I was asking, you know, we sat down and he was giving me advice, and he said, go find a show that you think is going to be a flop, because you'll learn way more from seeing someone's mistakes than you ever will like on a big hit. Because on a big hit, everything looks great and everything's rosy and happy, and everyone is happy because in the end, if it becomes a big hit, they're going to make money. But on a flop, you're going to learn what not to do. And I think that's such great advice just from a lot of friends that I have who, you know, in Silicon Valley and all sorts of different places, they kind of say the exact same thing, that you learn from making your mistakes. So never be afraid to make a mistake, because that's how you'll learn. And then maybe your second company or your third company is going to be the one that is a big, huge success. So anyways, so to rewind, back to, I don't know, I guess you're going to learn a lot about my life. Something, I mean, I was very fortunate to have really supportive, wonderful parents who introduced me at a very young age to musical theater, which in the end became my passion, my love, what I've always wanted to do. When I was little, I came to New York when I was 10 on a family vacation with like, I don't know, I saw three different Broadway shows, and I was like, I have to live in New York and I have to do this. This is my like calling in life, I guess. At that time I thought to perform, which I ended up doing, but I wanted to do something more and not just be like a puppet kind of in someone's show. I wanted to be the one, like the puppeteer running, you know, running the show and calling the shots and creating it. So to go back, so my parents told me this quote from Mark Twain when I was very young, and I used to have it on my wall growing up, and it said something to the effect of, if you always tell the truth, you'll never have to remember anything. Because people can kind of get caught up in lies and things, and so if you're just always telling the truth and honest and humble and know who you are, then you'll never, you know, you can only make mistakes and learn from your mistakes and stay grounded and everything. So, so to go way back, so I'm from California, and I've now lived in New York for 11 years, but I knew at 10 that I wanted to get to New York, but I think there are a couple like different key points in my life that kind of changed the trajectory of my life. One was 9/11. I was at the time majoring in college. I was an opera major. I guess I'm not going to be an opera singer, and I kind of realized, you know, life is short. It's time to figure it out and get on a path for me. And so I ended up transferring to the University of Southern California, and I got as involved as I possibly could. I ended up doing 5 different internships, which is so important because I made some of the relationships there that have kind of come full circle. One, I interned at Jive Records, and I ended up working there out of college in New York. Someone that I had met there is now the president of NARIS, who runs the Grammy Awards, so now I have that connection. You know, so just kind of holding on and trying to learn as much as I possibly could. So I was a music industry major, thought that I would like work at a record label, I guess. And I interned at Jive Records, Warner Chappell, which is a music publishing company, Lionsgate Entertainment, which is a film company. I worked in their music department. I worked at Boardman and Caffarelli, which is a PR firm, and Anonymous Content, which produces movies, TV, and has a literary management division that I worked in. So I was just trying to learn as much as I possibly could. I got involved in my sorority, and I became the president of my sorority, and I was completely an overachiever. And I thought kind of at the time when I moved to New York that I needed to like get a job and be someone's assistant and work my way up, because that's kind of what everyone told me that you were supposed to do. But I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I don't think I didn't really recognize that when I first moved to New York. I think I'd be much further along in my life. So you guys are very lucky that you figured it out so young. But I saw this thing. I'm gonna draw on the board for a second. I was down at a conference, and this lady showed this image, and I think it's actually pretty true. So most people think that success is kind of, a straight line. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but I think it actually like starts maybe like that and then goes all over the place like this, and then you end up on the path where you're meant to be, I guess. So I kind of think everything happens for a reason, and that's kind of how I stay grounded in my life and make sense of everything that's going on. But I do have two parents. My parents are entrepreneurs. My dad started his own company and like real estate, and my mom is a computer programmer and does that, and even my dad's dad was an entrepreneur in a sense. He had his own company too and was an inventor, and complete antithesis from who I am, but he was like a scientist and invented the thruster that made it possible to land on the moon. So like super like astrophysicist kind of stuff, and here I am in like Broadway and jazz hands. Totally different. My uncle is an entrepreneur as well. Now he's a teacher actually, but he did like film and TV composition and arranging and for all these movies, and working on his own project to project. And you have to, I think just in general, just stay true to who you are. When you say you're going to do something, follow through with it. Make sure to stay in really good touch with like the people that you meet along the way, because you never know how they will help you in your life, how you can learn from them. So I think like surrounding yourself with really great people is a very important step. So backtrack. So now I just graduated college. I moved to New York, and I ended up working at Jive Records. And my roommate at the time it was like auditioning and performing in musical theater, and I've performed since I was 5 years old, singing, dancing, acting, the whole 9 yards. And she's like, I'm going on this audition, and I have an appointment, and aren't I fancy? And she's like, but there's an open call later. And I was like, okay. So I went, and I booked the national tour at 42nd Street. And I quit my job, the job that everyone a million girls guys would die to have. I quit my job, and I performed on the national tour for a year. And I made some fantastic friends. And that day that I went to that audition impacted my life kind of like no other, because it really just changed the trajectory, kind of getting me back on the path that I had thought that I would always be on. But when the tour ended, I found myself back in New York on unemployment. I got a job as a hostess in a restaurant. I, got an agent. I started auditioning and kind of did that world and made some amazing friends. But it wasn't very fulfilling, and I didn't really like the lifestyle, I guess. And so I did it for a while. And then I kept like trying to find myself, and I was like, maybe I should go to law school. That sounds like a great thing. And so I studied for the LSAT, and then I never ended up taking it. But, I thought for like a little while I was going to be a lawyer, and then changed again. And I ended up working at Complex Magazine. I don't know if you guys have ever read that, but it was at the time when the digital kind of media world was kind of starting to take off. So I worked in ad sales for the magazine, and then also their digital kind of stuff. And I thought maybe that was going to be my calling, where I would find myself. And It turned out that was not the world for me. Being somewhere at 8:30 in the morning, and if you were 1 minute late, like your whole day was messed up because your boss was so mean to you. Like that world wasn't for me. Working 11, 12 hours a day, and I felt like a shell of a person. You know, what I was doing was cool to everyone else on the outside, but it wasn't fulfilling to me. So I quit my job. Slash got fired all on the same day. It was a confusing day. Because I'm an overachiever, I was like helping plan like this company party and doing all this extra stuff, and my boss didn't really like that. So anyways, I ended up kind of falling into this way of making extra money in New York by being a promotional model for different brands. At the time for Evian through a PR firm. And I just happenstance went with a friend to this party, like company party rooftop thing for this PR firm. And this guy we bonded, I don't even know how, but we started like doing tap dance together on like the rooftop and amongst all these kind of like snootier people, and we like totally bonded. And so it was this really great thing. And he was like, how do you feel about being a brand ambassador for Evian? And I was like, I don't really know what that means, but if it means getting to work with you, then for sure. It's really cool. And his name's Corey, and he had a huge impact on my life. I was a brand ambassador for Evian at a bunch of different events, and basically my job was to spray people in the face with water and like give them free water. And it was really fun. I had a great time at the US Open, at Fashion Week, the New York and South Beach Food and Wine Festival. And the second time I was down there, I was noticing, because I was direct to the PR firm and they had hired another company to staff the rest of the brand ambassadors, and I was like, you know, that's interesting that they, you know, my friends are so much cooler, prettier, smarter. Like it'd be so much better if I was working with my friends. And I was kind of chatting with a friend down there and thinking I was going to start a company with my friend to kind of staff brand ambassadors, because I saw a need for it, I guess. And a friend was like, oh yeah, I can hire you for this Vitamin Water 10 pop-up store in New York if you can staff it. And I'm like, okay. And so I started a company. Supposed to be with my friend. It was kind of a blessing in disguise that she backed out, because she wanted to become a famous film actress. And she's like, I think running a staffing company will get in the way. You can hire me, but I'm going to go my path, and then you can start your company. And complete blessing, because now I just call the shots and do what I want to do, and I don't have to check with someone. So it kind of works out really nicely for me. And so now I've had my company for going on 6 years. It all has built word of mouth. All my clientele, all the people I work with, I hire my friends that I used to perform with, and friends and friends of friends, and it kind of keeps everyone accountable in one way, just because, you know, they're working for a friend. And then it's a really great way for them to make extra money between their Broadway shows, because as you can see, they close really fast. Or you know, you can book the show and you just made your Broadway debut and it's this huge moment, and then the show closes and you're like, well, I was great, but now no one can see that. So then, you know, so they need a way to like kind of pay their rent too. So I've been doing that now, 6 years. It's great, but at one point I was kind of feeling like, you know, I'm helping all of my friends to achieve their dreams, but what about me? And you know, I went through a period of figuring out how to get, I guess, to where I am now, which is kind of cool. So by keeping like good relations, the guy who's the producer of my 42nd Street tour and I had just become friends. You know, I'd run into him, we'd like grab a drink, just like really cool friend. And, you know, I kept saying, you know, I want to be a producer, but I feel like I'm on the outside. How do I get in? And he was like, well, to be a producer, you have to raise a lot of money. So why don't you try, no pressure. I'm producing a tour of Dreamgirls. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie with Beyonce. So this was like post-movie, there was a tour around the country. And so I was like, sure, I'll try. And so it worked out. I, you know, raised money for the tour, and then I was suddenly a co-producer. After that tour, luckily it returned a profit to the investors, and then I ran into another friend so subsequent to all of that story I just told you, when I moved to New York, I started taking classes in producing, just to kind of learn all the background of it, the general management stuff, all the budgeting, and all the way down the road. So someone that I had met from one of those classes was a lead producer on Peter and the Starcatcher, and so I had run into him, and he was like, hey, I need to raise some money for my tour. Do you want to try? And okay. And so luckily Dreamgirls returned a profit, so I went back to those investors and then to others, and was able to raise money for the tour. So now I have 2 co-producing credits, nothing on Broadway yet. And then along the way, I had met the lead producer of American in Paris. You can see the full page ad in the New York Times over there. So I had met him, and we more as like a mentor, like asking advice and how do I get in, and you saw about like natural disasters, and that I was like up for a job at a general management company that this guy had connected me to, and one of the unions went on strike. And I was like, I think I was like a serious contender for the job, but the girl who was leaving decided not to leave, and then there was no more job for me. So that was like post the law school idea, and then before Complex, and I don't know. So I started like cocktail waitressing, which ended up being like in New York the best way to like make extra cash on the side for me, to be able to grow later my business and meet some amazing people and friends, and also learn how to sell, which I think is a very interesting place to learn that skill. But I learned how to sell someone a cocktail or sell someone a bottle of whatever liquor at, whatever bar I was working at. And that skill was transferable to when I was going to raise money. I was able to sell in a way, but speak passionately about the project that I was working on. So kind of all of that squiggly line is for sure me. And I kind of picked up skills along the way and different people, and I guess that's my story. But yeah. So now I'm a co-producer on American in Paris, and we have our first performance. It's called a preview period before the opening, and the first performance is on Friday, March 13th. So Friday the 13th.
Oh.
It's coming up.
What a day to
Yeah.
have on that. Okay, great. How about a few questions for Julie?
Yeah.
Yeah, where do you see yourself, like 5 years from now?
I want to creative produce Broadway shows. So right now I am, getting my track record, my resume, step by step. I feel like I say that all the time. But kind of my track record, so that later down the road someone will trust me. So I'll have the relationships with the theater owners, with the different, all across the board, to be able to do my own show, to be able to raise all of that money. It's a lot of money. So I'll, be able to be trusted to do my own show down the road by building, hopefully, I'm gonna knock on wood again, a successful track record. I'm developing something right now, and shows take, 5-6 years to even be seen, and the fact that anything is seen is really just lucky. That I heard a story just last night from a friend whose mom was a producer before she passed away, and he was telling the story, and this musical that sounded so great, they ended up getting into a legal conflict, and so no one's ever seen it. So the fact that anything is actually made, that someone can raise all of this money to be able to have something, that just gets you to opening night. So then, you have to rely on your sales after that and word of mouth, and it's a crazy world. Yeah.
Does that give you like anxiety to think that like you raise so much money and then it could just like go away, or?
Well, yes and no. I'm really picky about what I get involved in, project-wise, and I believe in it so much, and I'm so passionate about it. You can't control things, but all you can do is stay focused and create the best show you can possibly create. On American in Paris, I am a co-producer, and the lead producer, the mentor person I spoke of, you know, that's kind of something that he said to me. And, you know, you just stay focused and focus on creating the art and creating something that's so entertaining for people. And then hopefully it all works out. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are some examples of like persuading investors, hey, this show is going to be a big hit? Like, how do you reassure them, or how did you maneuver that to fundraise?
Through my passion, you know, and knowing the answer and being prepared and having gone to all those classes and learning and just kind of being a sponge and absorbing as much as I possibly can.
I'll tell you how Julie actually saved me on becoming an investor in American Paris, which she did. I met Julie probably about a year or so ago when she told me about this show called The Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. And I'm like, I don't know, that's a crazy name to a show. And she says, come to the show with me and the lead producer. They still have room in it for you to put your name up there as the lead producer. So I go with her to the show, okay, and it was pretty packed, and there's all this British humor, you know, the spam a lot stuff I hate. I can't understand them, and then, you know, there's all these British people laughing their ass off, and I'm like, the main actor was funny, I thought that was pretty good, but I just didn't see it translating, okay? Little did I know that that would win the best musical of the year, okay, in this past year. So it goes to show you know nothing about anything, okay? So after that I said, wow, Julie must know what she's doing here. So she introduced me to the producer of An American Paris, and here's how it works. They were doing a reading of the show. A reading is without your costume. You just have the actors that they think are going to be in it, but maybe some fill-ins. And you go in and there's a room, could be 50, 100 people sitting there in stadium seating, and you're watching people without their costumes perform the show. So you get a really good idea, even if you know nothing about Broadway, or if you've never even gone to a show, you'll know whether something looks good or entertaining or not. So I went to that with her, and I said, wow, this was really, really good. And I've gone to a bunch of them before. So when you talk about being persuasive to do that, there's a lot of bullets in your gun. Taking investors to readings, taking them to shows that she's a big shot, A Gentleman's Guide that won the whole ball of wax. Obviously, she must know people, because I'm not meeting these people who, you know, just a few weeks before he wanted to take my money. And then by the time I read the reviews, I'm like, hey, you want to take my money now? He says, no, thank you. He says, I put in my own money. We'll do just fine now. And it's one of the highest grossing shows on Broadway. Okay, so you know very, very little about this until you actually go in and make it happen. All right, so let's give it up for Julie.